post this afterwards. So don't worry, you all look great. So if you're wondering like, gee, does Zoom, do I have the touch-up feature on? You don't need it, all right? So it's gonna be a really good day. Let's go over some announcements first of all. Let's see if I can share my screen. Again, just put yourself on mute if you're not talking. That would be super helpful. All right, let's see here. Okay, so just give me a thumbs up if you can see this screen share here. It says office hours. Okay, great. So if you're here for the first time, again, welcome to Office Hours from CCMA. If you've been here for the last couple of Wednesdays, great to see you back. We do these every Wednesday at 3 p.m. And if you're wondering why 3 p.m., two reasons. One, because we want to accommodate our West Coast people. I'm on the East Coast, but not everybody is. And second, I know that Petrus Development has been hosting a 2 p.m. Eastern time virtual summit every day based on fundraising, and it's really, really good stuff, so I didn't want to conflict with them. The purpose really of our time together is to share best practices, which helps us know how to be the most effective we can be on campus so that we don't waste time and we cut down on frustration. Also want to encourage each other. I think just seeing one another's faces is super important right now. And whether you like the way you look on the video camera or not, this is important. It really is. We do need to encourage each other from campus to campus. And I think we'll see in just a minute, we'll put in the chat where we're all calling in from. We're from all over the country, and that's really exciting. And then the last one is to promote peer-to-peer communication even after this. So maybe you're seeing a face over and over again, or you're seeing somebody in office hours and you're thinking, wait, her campus is just like mine, or our campuses are so similar. We want to encourage you to communicate in between these office hours so that our association and our networking gets deeper and deeper and deeper. I want to just continue to put in front of you all as kind of the chief reminding officer, as Pat Lencioni describes it. It's easy to get into a thing now where we're all in lockdown with this sense of like, oh gosh, this stinks, or I just can't wait to get back to the way it was. And I think it's not a bad idea to reframe that thinking into what does this make possible? What does this new normal make possible for the next few weeks, next few months? Who knows how long it's going to take? Because I think we could get into this thinking of, well, I'm just hoping everything goes back to the way it was before. And I don't know, maybe God is showing us new things through this coronavirus kind of way of doing ministry virtually. I also want to bring to your attention that we have a ton of resources for you at ccmanetwork.org/COVID-19, from videos to links from other campuses and what they're doing. And if you have something that's really incredible on your campus, let me know, and I'd be more than happy to include it in that list of resources. If you're not part of the CCMA Facebook group, there's the link down below. Please make sure you sign up. We have hundreds of campus ministers who engage all the time, and we just encourage you to use that as much as possible. A couple of upcoming events. Let's see, tomorrow we have a Facebook Live, and that is at 3 o'clock. And that's with Nora Bradbury Hale. She is a high school youth minister and also the author. Great. Also the author of the Freshman Survival Guide, which has sold over 130,000 copies. And as an author myself, I can assure you it is not easy to sell 100,000 copies, much less 10,000 copies. And we're going to be asking her what she would like to see from colleges for her high school students kind of moving forward, coronavirus and again, a reminder, just put yourself on mute if you're not talking. Be super, super helpful. Thank you. And then on April 8th, next Wednesday, we have an office hours on 3 ways to avoid loneliness when you work from home. You might have the coolest office, the best video camera, you might be taking regular breaks, but still it can be lonely. And so we're going to talk about that in ways that we can counteract that. Again, if we can help, anyone on our team can help in any way, let's be helping each other during this time. So with that said, I'll stop talking and invite all of you in the chat to just say where you are calling in from today. And if you're new to Zoom, chat is at the very bottom of your screen. Okay, great. New Hampshire, my old stomping ground, West Virginia, Dubuque, beautiful Dubuque, LA, St. Louis, Michigan, Lewis University in Romeoville, Illinois, Pittsburgh, PA, great, San Diego, New Jersey, the great state of New Jersey. Okay, a lot of Jersey, Garden State Pride there. Winthrop University, South Carolina, Detroit, Michigan, San Diego, Detroit. I'd like to be in San Diego right about now. University of Arkansas, Valdosta, Georgia, great. University of Miami, fantastic. San Jose, California, Melbourne, Florida, Abby from Savannah, great. Francis Marion University in Florence, fantastic. Okay, great. And also from New Jersey. Okay, super. So we're talking today about, very simply, digital small groups. And why don't we start with, first of all, another question for the chat. What just medium have you been using so far? You know, whether it's Zoom or FaceTime or it's Google Chat, WhatsApp, I don't know, you know, Facebook Messenger. Let's start there just to get a feel for what people are using so far. This is great. Wow, you could see from this, you guys are so techie. This is great. Zoom, Google Duo, email, a lot of Zoom, GoToMeeting. That's a very sophisticated campus. GroupMe, Instagram Live, Facebook Live, WhatsApp, Google Hangout, Messenger, Microsoft Teams. This is great. Let's see, still some of my students, even Facebook Messenger, Bible studies run by our focused missionaries, mostly Zoom. Okay, great. All right, well, let's take off our mics for a second. Now that we have a sense of what we're using in terms of virtual small groups, digital small groups, and let's just put it out there. So far, what's either been a little bit choppy or what has not worked so far? Because you wouldn't be here on this office hours if you had it all figured out. And I see some smirks and smiles there. So what's been a little choppy so far and what hasn't exactly worked out perfectly? So you could just feel free to take yourself off mute and who wants to start our conversation?
I know for me personally, one of our focus missionaries tried to have a watch party the other day for I think it was a TED Talk or something. And it was just kind of only 2 students ended up showing up for it. So I think it's kind of figuring out when students are available nowadays, whereas when students were around on campus, it was kind of like, okay, these are our times when we do these events. And now it's trying to figure out when they're free still in this kind of new age that we have right now.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. And Dan, just tell everybody where you serve.
I'm from West Virginia University.
Yeah, okay. All right, anybody want to piggyback on Dan? Just, oh my gosh, the timing of these groups is difficult, or people aren't showing up and they were supposed to be, etc.
I know I'm having a hard time with students even just responding at all to what time they are available or what their needs are. I don't know if that's because they're suddenly overwhelmed or just, I know a couple of students live with older family members like grandparents or aunts and uncles who don't have internet in their house. So I know that already going to school online is a struggle for them as well. So I'm not sure,
Mm-hmm.
You know, what the deal is, if other people are having the same issues that suddenly students who had been fairly active are suddenly like just gone.
Okay, interesting. And Caitlin, just remind everybody where you're serving.
I serve at Francis Marion University in Florence, South Carolina.
Okay, got it. Okay, yeah, so that's really interesting. Who else so far you've been it's been a little choppy, or just students who were really involved before have dropped off the face of the map, or it just feels like a struggle?
We're doing our small faith groups virtual, and we have 2 freshman groups. I mean, you know, it's not necessarily all, you know, by class, but we always start out with 2 freshman groups, then we add a ladies group, you know, and according to the interest of the students. And they're all peer led. And one of the freshman groups just did not engage. They did, you know, I'm wondering if they're overwhelmed by the transition of everything going online, trying to stay on a routine, keep up with their studies. I think that, you know, if you acclimate to the beginning of the freshman year and you move away and now suddenly, you know, we're juniors and seniors, some of them are leasing apartments, they have jobs, they're still on campus even though they're not, you know, everything is online. So I think that they're adjusting and acclimating in their own way, but I think that maybe there might be more struggles for the freshman and sophomore.
Interesting. And, you know, let's not understate, oh my gosh, we had a huge mental health set of issues before this. Then they're told not to come back to campus. Most of them still have things in their dorms, their own property. They're staying God knows where. Now all their classes are online, and now we're telling them to pray online and meet online. You know, I mean, they're either their fingers are still twitching when they lie down at night, or they're grateful for a break, a little respite from online life. So yeah, thanks, Holly. Anybody want to chime in on that, whether or not you feel like your freshmen, sophomores are especially struggling with this adjustment? Also, we have some other comments. Emma said, love to hear some Instagram Live success stories. How's that work for you? Jenna said, I've used Doodle Poll to figure out when everyone's free. Jenna, can we go to you? Just talk about that. Where'd you get that idea and how's that working for you?
Yeah, I don't know where I got that idea. I've been using Doodle Poll for a while, but it's just doodle.com, and you can create free little like surveys basically, and they can be like time periods, or you can do like text responses, and just kind of, I've used it as like, oh, I'm generally free Monday afternoons, Tuesday afternoons, Wednesday evenings, something like that. I've also done like specific time slots and people can mark either, yes, I'm free then, or I can meet if we need to, but I don't prefer it, or they can mark no. And anyone can participate if they have the link. So you can just send that out in an email, in a text, in whatever, but it's pretty easy, and I have like a lot of different ones, and you just go on your dashboard and scroll through all the different surveys you have. So
good idea. Yeah, it's totally free. There is some work to do on the front end, but it makes it easier on the other side of things. And I think the other piece there that there might be some wisdom is to block out certain times. I mean, you can't be available 20 hours a day. We're adults, right? You know, so if a group wants to meet at 11 o'clock at night, no, or you can meet without me, right? But we're adults with other things in our lives, and that's perfectly okay. So it's good to block out some things. Going back to the question in the chat, and feel free to put any questions here in the chat. This is great. Who's had success with Instagram Live? And I'm going to show a little bit of my 40 plus age here, but is there a difference between Instagram Live and Instagram TV, or is that the same thing?
There's a difference.
Thank you, Katie.
Live is when it's just like a live video. So if I were to start a live right now, it would be me talking currently. TV, what it is it's when you post a video, like as you would post a picture on Instagram, in that square, it only holds about 59 seconds, 60 seconds. If it's longer than that, then you can post the whole video in what's called Instagram TV, and you can have different sections, like with different names. So for example, I post it for my students. Every week I do a State of the Union address. So I have a folder called State of the Unions where they could find all of them. In regards to, I've had some success with Instagram Live. So every weekday I do, I pray the Rosary live. And then on Fridays I do the Divine Mercy Chaplets. So the Rosary's at 2, and then the Divine Mercy Chaplets at 3. I found more success in having guest hosts. So calling in, because you can connect and have somebody else lead it as well. So I found more success with that because I'm also drawing in their audience from wherever whoever they reach. And usually students, if they pray with it, like they can watch it live, or they can watch it within the next 24 hours and pray with that as well. So a little bit of success. It's all brand new. I've never used Instagram Live before, really way outside of my comfort zone, but we're just doing the best we can.
Hey, that's how we roll in the Garden State, you know. Anybody else? Thanks for that education, Katie. Anybody else? Instagram, is that working well for you? Again, just connecting everything to small groups. How are you using that, and is that working?
We're actually gonna, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay, well, we're actually going to start a Bible study doing Instagram Live, but I didn't know how interactive that would be besides just the video, and then it was going to be the guest speaker. So we're doing something similar to what Katie said. It's a student on our exec team's idea, and she knows more of the tech pieces of it than I do. So we've been actually just looking into that.
Cool, Holly. Hey, question. Let's see. Can you have 2 hosts for Instagram Live? And Father Mike, you were going to chime in. You're nodding. Go ahead, Father Mike.
Yeah, I find if you're going to do a Bible study, if you want any type of interaction, it's very difficult to have live interaction through Instagram. So what we're doing here at Florida Tech is my campus minister is posting videos and just simple things on Instagram a couple times a week. I do a reflection on Facebook TV, not Facebook, excuse me, Instagram TV, and we have it linked. So if we post something on Instagram, it also goes on Facebook. And we've actually seen more students get more involved because of that. And our participation is going through the roof. Like my daily mass participation, I'm getting like 80 people coming to my daily mass, which I do on Facebook Live. So I've actually seen an increase, and some students that I haven't connected with before, I'm connecting with for the first time.
Well, you know, that's on kind of the macro level. That's actually one of the whole points of small groups, isn't it? That it feeds into the rest of campus ministry so that small groups lead to worship at the Mass, lead to adoration, lead to moments of prayer, lead to service, lead to retreats. So that's really interesting that virtually that's happening. That's how it's supposed to happen, you know, when we're not in lockdown. Okay, really great. Let's see. Julia said we're using When to Meet. She's found that a little bit easier than Doodle Poll. Let's see. And Katie, have you found a way to have another host? So we know we can have multiple hosts. Do they have to have split screen?
Sorry, I muted myself. I think I understand the question. So when you do Instagram Live, either like you can host it yourself or you can call in like one other person. The way that works is they have to be watching your live feed. So you can then either invite them or they can request to join it. But as far as I'm concerned, you can't have more than just like one person. Yeah.
Okay, thanks for that. Allison said we had a problem with recording a GoToMeeting. The audio didn't record and only the screen then recorded was a screen share. Trying to figure out the best platform for an online retreat opportunity. So we're gonna talk probably about retreats, but a question came in during the week about issues of recording. Somebody asked me earlier this week, like a session where everyone's together and it's recorded and they all get assigned to breakouts which are not recorded. So for example, in Zoom, you can break people into different rooms. I don't know if those separate rooms are recorded, whereas like a general room is. So for any of you Zoomers, if you've had success so far, let's talk about that, you know, in terms of what's working with Zoom, and have you had any recording issues, and are you able to record into groups? Don't everybody go at once.
Well, we have, I've been a part of a couple of Zoom breakout sessions, but haven't moderated them, where the main session has been recorded and the breakout sessions have not, so that it allows for some confidentiality within those small groups. And so I'm looking at exploring that as a moderator and as a moderator host, because we have a Holy Week, actually Triduum series of sessions with some national speakers, musicians who are going to do some retreat experiences with us, where it'll be large group and then break out into small groups. And I'm from Los Angeles, from Mount St. Mary's University.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you, Gail. Yeah, oh, by the way, we have Palm Sunday and Triduum coming up, you know, so, and we can't be there in person. Lisa asked, great question, is the breakout feature in Zoom available on the free version, or is that only on the paid? Anybody know? Is it only on the paid, the breakout rooms?
I don't know. We have the paid version through the university.
Okay.
It's just on the paid.
It's just on the paid. Okay. All right. You know, it's just kind of going back to the fundraising summit. I mean, all of us, at least that I'm aware of, you know, we're all on spending freezes right now, or maybe your university, your diocese is, you know, they've given the shot across the bow, or they've said, like, prepare yourself for the worst. But this is a good opportunity to ask, if you don't have it in your budget, for the paid version of Zoom or whatever the medium you're using. It's a great opportunity to ask a benefactor, just say, like, look, this would really make a huge difference. You know, it's not a lot of money, but boy, it would really make a big difference. So just putting that out there. Okay. Who else has had some success with Zoom? Let's kind of stay there, since apparently that's sort of the bee's knees of products right now. But who else is using Zoom for your Bible studies, or you're using Zoom for small face sharing groups? And how do they work? And what's, just take us behind the scenes there. Go ahead, Megan.
I got this in before Amazon like moved shipment dates and Barnes and Noble started moving shipment dates, but I recognized that students were probably going to have like a bit more time to do things if they were stuck at home. So I ended up sending any students who wanted to participate a copy of Mercy in the City to their house, and was able to write a little message in there. So we're actually doing a book group, and it's so far so good. So it was great because students don't really get mail anymore. So it was like fun to see all of their reactions to getting packages in the mail. And then, so like as soon as they got it, I got an immediate text. Oh my gosh, my book came today. What are we reading again? So so we're going to use like Zoom is the platform we're using. So I send out questions before so students can be prepared, and then I just moderate it. But
that's super. Yeah, great idea, Megan. Very creative. And again, you know, mail is sort of an exotic thing now. So it makes an impact, and a good reminder to all of us that a personal note is still the best thing. You know, everybody loves getting a personal note, personal anything in the mail. Okay, and how often do you anticipate that group meeting?
So the hard part is I'm at 3 different universities who all have different end dates, but most of the students are in Pennsylvania, and it doesn't look like we're going to be going anywhere for at least the next month. So the hope is that we meet at least once a week over the next like 6 weeks. So
okay, great. Hey, Sean O'Rourke, can I pick on you for a second? I know you guys have a really healthy small group ministry at WashU in St. Louis. Can you talk about what's working for you guys, what isn't?
Sure. So honestly, this week, actually just Monday, was the first time that we've started using Zoom for our small groups. Essentially what that looks like for us is our leaders, like our small group leaders, all meet in a group once a week with me and one of my interns, and they have essentially their own small group for themselves. So they get a chance to hear the passage that they're going to be using the following week in their own small groups, and gives them a chance to not only engage the passage on their own, but allows them to hear other people's perspectives that they can then take into their own groups. So WashU is doing all of their online classes through Zoom. So all of our students have a Zoom account through that, and they can set up meetings with their peers. So the way that we're doing that is we meet once a week with all of our student leaders, and then they set up their own meetings with the other folks in their small groups to have their individual small group meetings. I don't know if that.
Yeah, super helpful. Thanks, Sean. Yeah, so in other words, Sean, his leaders have their own small group, but then he lets them, equips them to then schedule their small groups whenever they want. And small groups are obviously a huge thing on almost all of our campuses. Who else has pretty much just said to your leaders, like, figure it out, find the time to schedule, and whenever it happens, and then you just check back with them a week later? Is anybody else finding that's a similar model for you? Gail, were you kind of nodding there?
Yeah, we have 2 Christian communities, houses that students live in, Casa Magnifica and Magnificat House. And so that we have 2 resident ministers who are assigned to live in those houses. So they're continuing to keep the community virtually, and setting up gathering times that work for the students who were living in those houses. Most of our students, except for about 30 who are either homeless or have no other place to go, are living at home or someplace else.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, and there's, gosh, think of international students. I was talking to somebody at Notre Dame, and they said they have about 150 international students, and they had to move them into the hotel on campus, so kind of interesting. Let's talk about the positive side of digital small groups. There's obviously plenty of resistance, there's plenty of hiccups, it's difficult, the scheduling, the whole thing. I'm curious, on your campus, what's been a bright spot in all this? Have you seen students step up where you didn't see that before, or have you seen some real depth in terms of their faith sharing or their prayer or their theological back and forth? Anybody want to jump in on that?
Well, I'd really like to share.
Sure, go ahead, Claire.
I'm Claire. I'm from the College of St. Elizabeth in New Jersey. It's a really small college, but a big success with our online faith sharing group have been more adult students. Before, we were more focused on in-person was undergraduate, and now we're seeing a lot of adult students and continuing study students Zoom in for our faith sharing. So it's really nice to see a different population. Yeah. I purchased digital copies. Most things you can get digitally on Amazon, and so I have them pre-register, and then I can send them the digital version of it, or if they don't, then we can present in Zoom so that they can see the material as our students are leading through. So.
Love it. Yeah, so you're seeing some different students plugging in than maybe before. Okay, that's great. Go Eagles. I'm a proud alum. Annette, you were going to jump in before.
Yeah. My situation is maybe a little different from some of you here. So I'm the choir director, and when everything was happening and the emails were coming out and everyone was confused and not knowing what was going to happen next, we were having a choir rehearsal that week, and people were really anxious. And so I said at that moment, this seems like years ago, but really it was only a few weeks ago. I said to them, don't worry, if we have to all go home for a couple of weeks, because, we thought we were coming back after Easter, all of us. I said, don't worry, I'll learn how to use Zoom, and we'll Zoom in at choir practice on next Wednesday. And so what happened was everything, directly right after that got crazy. Everyone's home, all that stuff. So I did have that first Zoom meeting, and we gathered, and it was just everybody checking in, and there was absolutely no agenda, and it was I think people basically in shock.
Mhm.
And so then I said to them, do you guys want to meet again? And they said, yes, on Sunday when we would normally meet. So what has happened from that is we've been meeting every Wednesday and every Sunday at the time we would have gathered, or around the time we would have gathered. And after the first meeting where it was just kind of, everybody talking, I started meeting with 2 different students each time to say, what shall we do this time? So the last 3 meetings, including the one that's going to happen tonight, have all been planned by the students and co-hosted by students. And I think it's just been a really wonderful way for who are coming to process, to see, to sort of normalize if this can be normalized. And yeah, so that's been a surprise, but it's been a good surprise.
That's awesome, Annette. Yeah, I can't even imagine as a choir director, and the audio on laptops is not that great usually. So.
Oh, and just so you know, we're not singing together. We tried to sing together once, but because of the delay, it was hilarious and we all started laughing. So now what is happening is we're doing sharing, we're doing prayer. There are a few people that are recording pieces of music and playing it for the group, and then we turn our mics off and then we sing with it.
Mm.
So we're getting creative about what we're doing, but we learned very quickly it could not be a choir practice.
Yeah, okay. Okay, super. Let's see, Jake says there's a couple of great apps where you can try and sing together a cappella, recording over one another. Thanks, Jake, that's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, we have one, it's called Soundtrap.
Okay.
Maybe that's what Jake's talking about, and we're working on it remotely at another time, but are you talking about live?
Yeah, I don't know. Jake, go ahead, take yourself off mute there.
Yeah, sorry, my children are kind of running around all over the place, and so I've gone to chatting. I'll have to maybe Annette, maybe I'll message you. We can talk another time. Sorry, everybody, I gotta go here pretty soon.
No problem.
Yeah. All right. Bye bye.
Yeah, a cappella from Pick, Play, Post. Cool. All right, I like that. Let's see. All right, Patrick in Detroit says, are there any other good resources, written PDFs or videos of best practices for facilitating a small group or Bible study online specific? Okay, so that's really good. I mean, facilitating an online group is not that simple because you don't have all of the same body communication, right? My kids, their teachers put out like a guide, like Zoom etiquette. And initially I'm like, that's silly. Everybody knows how to use Zoom. And then I realized, no, these kids don't. It's like a whole new deal. Anybody, have you had to educate your students about just how this is supposed to go? In other words, what makes for a good facilitation online? I would imagine most of us have just wung it, but who's had some success in terms of training your leaders as to how to facilitate this kind of an experience?
I can speak again.
Go ahead, Lisa, or who? I'm not sure who that was.
I meet with my students about once a week, sometimes individually, sometimes at least once a week as a group, my leaders, and then we individually decide who's going to lead what, and I walk them through, like we meet, we walk through everything together. Sometimes I'll even join the meeting like 15 minutes in advance and walk through the process with them, and they can ask any questions, and they've been doing very, very great jobs of facilitation. And it's just meeting and prepping them basically is what we've been doing. So.
Mm-hmm. But that's great, Claire, but don't presume that your students know how to do this from start to finish. You know what I mean? Like being in, well, I guess we're not really going to Starbucks right now, but being in a Starbucks doing a virtual group wouldn't be so good because there's too much background noise, all kinds of things like that. We have about 5 minutes left. So I want to just encourage everybody to feel free to put anything that's kind of a hanging chad in the chat box there. Questions, comments, observations, etc. I love the interaction. And let me ask anybody else, have you seen any real depth or any real bright spots? I mean, things from this coronavirus time that you'd say, gosh, I actually hope this continues even when we're back on campus.
We've had a couple of things that I've been personally connected with. One is this opportunity to reach out to nationally known musicians and speakers and to set up things where they're actually going to do special retreat experiences with our group. They're going to do live Zoom sessions and lead music and talk about issues that our particular community has. So that's one. The other one is that we have prayer opportunities 2 nights a week, and virtual cookies on Monday. We would usually bake cookies and serve them to the community. So just opportunities for us to be available, and alums have been taking part in that. So people that we would not normally see have been coming out to visit us virtually. So that's been great.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
There's one thing I want to say. I don't know if this answers the question, but I'm just throwing it out there. I saw something online yesterday that I've shared with my students who have in turn shared it. There's a virtual Catholic conference this weekend. And I highly, it's free. It's on the website virtualcatholicconference.com. It says right now over 15,000 people are registered, and it breaks down to men's and women's conferences. Very famous speakers. And it's kind of like you log on this day and you just kind of take it at your own pace sort of thing. Is the impression that I've been getting. So I highly recommend that, not only for us individually, but passing that on to and literally anybody. I think it'll be it's available. It's not thing that we necessarily have to do. The students can just kind of take it at their own pace. I know a lot of students that have been signing up to do it together and do it in community too. So I wanted to pass that along.
Yeah, no, that's good. Thanks, Katie. And that's, yeah, I've seen that too on Facebook. It's virtualcatholicconference.com. And I like to tease Father Mike Schmitz that he's the only priest in America. But I think Father Mike is plugging into that. And a lot of us like Father Mike, so that should be a really neat opportunity. Anybody else? Have you seen some? Yeah, go ahead, Megan.
So I have just MailChimp email lists that end up being like a hodgepodge of people who don't normally come to things, but just getting information out there. And I had put a button at the bottom our Newman Center would love to send you a senior gift if you're graduating. Just click this, I'm a senior, respond back with your address, and we'll send you a little gift. Nice. And of course, it's none of my active students who responded, but it's people who maybe came to 2 or 3 things throughout the past 3 years. And I just thought this is a great opportunity to send them a little spiritual book and write them a note when I can get back to the post office to do all this. But that even if they weren't as active in college as I hoped, it's an opportunity to say that we can still minister to them. And I just thought that was really neat that some of the people who responded, I'm I have to look up to see if I can figure out who this person even is. But it was interesting to see that they felt like they still belong to the community, even if they weren't super active. So.
Great example. I mean, the thing is that with online, some people who are a little bit hesitant in person may be more confident online. I mean, I think it's apocryphal, but I've heard that introverts are a little bit more outspoken online. And I don't know if that's true or not, but think of the people in your community who you're suddenly giving them a bigger voice, a bigger platform, an on-ramp into the rest of the community. And that's a great gift. And I think it's a great idea. We'll send you a senior gift, and they're not going to forget that. No question. They'll come back to see you, 6 months, 9 months later. Great. Jenna said there's also a Be Not Afraid conference with daily emails and video recorded talks. Thanks, Jenna, for putting that in the chat. That sounds really interesting. Lisa says a lot of our campus ministry used to happen while students were on campus because everything we offered was in person. Now none of it happens in person, so why not continue through the summer? It's given me motivation to keep offering connections beyond the semester borders. Absolutely. Yeah, oh my gosh, they're transitioning to jobs and internships, or they're about to come on campus, who knows, but they still need you. And you're probably the person that represents the church most to them. So why wouldn't we want to keep up that communication relationship? That's great. That's great. Anybody have a question or something you want to throw out to the group before we close up shop today?
You know, I was actually just thinking what Lisa said. I was like, why have I kind of, you know, I mean, the summer is a time of respite for us, but, you know, there might be a way to still connect with people over that time. And this kind of is a great, you know, entrance into that. But another thing I've been doing is reaching out to recent alumni, because they are at home probably as we are. And a lot of them still know some of the students that are, you know, in my group. So we're going to try that next week, is to really just invite anyone who's been a part of Newman to, you know, get together and do like a little Bible study, faith sharing. So I think it'd be a neat connection, because like we haven't seen those alumni, but yet they still have a connection to current students as well. And we are a small ministry, so they're, you know, the connections run pretty deep. So that's one thing that I've been excited about. So we'll see how it goes next week.
That's fantastic. I love that. And this, again, what does this make possible? I want to say something to everybody, and this is, I mean this very personally. You know, I've been hearing of a lot of universities and dioceses who have been telling their people, you know, we're going to have layoffs and things like that. And we have to, maybe a little bit more if you're a layperson than a religious ordained, but you have to be thinking of, how am I communicating the value of what I'm doing, quote unquote, up the flagpole? And with digital ministry, you now have ways to prove to people the ministry is not stopping. We're so creative that we'll go to great lengths to make sure that the Bible continues to be studied, that the Sunday gospel continues to be reflected on. And taking a screenshot of one of your meetings with all these faces on the screen, and then showing your boss or whomever, or putting that in a newsletter, that's a way of saying, wow, we're so creative. You know, the coronavirus is raging, but we're doing the work of the Lord here. And the other thing that's valuable about digital ministry is you can measure it. You know, like Father Mike said, he can prove how many people are watching Mass. Whereas when everything is on campus, people say, how'd your day go today? It went okay, I think. You know, we had some people who showed up. And we kind of go by gut, you know, and intuition, and those are not bad things. But when things are digital, like we're kind of forced to now, you can measure everything. And so just be thinking of your next newsletter, your next benefactor appeal, your next meeting with your supervisor or your boss. You now have more data than you've ever had before. And I can't remember if it was Gail or Annette or Claire who said it, but you're pulling in new people that you've never seen before. Maybe it's been a while, and you can prove it. And that's data that people want to see, you know? So I don't think that should be like the leading indicator, job security, but this is a time to also just be thinking, I'm planning for the future, and everything I'm doing, I'm trying my best to measure it. And I want to be armed with as much information as possible. So I just feel like I should share that with you all, because it breaks my heart when I hear that a good person's been let go. And I don't want that to happen to any of us. Well, just want to thank everybody for your time, your ideas, your insights today. Hopefully you can join us tomorrow afternoon for Facebook Live at 3 o'clock. And if not, hopefully you can join us for next Wednesday's office hours at 3 o'clock on Wednesday, where we're going to be talking about loneliness and working remotely. it is not necessarily an easy transition for a lot of us. So we'll have a lot of great opportunities coming up. Looking forward to it. Why don't we close with the glory be? Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen. Mary, Mother of the Church, pray for us. All right, everybody, peace. God bless you guys. Let's be praying for each other. We'll see you next week.